A draft scouting report series now looks at Allen Flanigan. Spent 4 years at Auburn. This past season at Ole Miss was productive. All 5 seasons in the SEC. Varying levels of that production. A knee injury had him take a step back, and he came back from that. Was still productive, but was not on the All SEC caliber kind of trajectory he was on before the injury. Going to take a shot in the NBA. We have him 70th on our big board at Sleepers. So, a borderline second round pick. We think he'll be undrafted, but certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him get picked. Riley, give me one word to describe Flanigan's game.
Said situation, just because I think that will determine his future. Can he land on a team that needs some athleticism, that needs a 6'6" wing who can shoot a little bit, who's had moments throughout his career being a bucket. But yeah, he's had a largely up and down college career, and it makes it tougher to project what's going to happen going forward. But I like the physical tools. I like the athleticism.
Yeah, I like the physical tools. I like the athleticism. I don't mean this as negatively. It's just going to come off. The word I had for him is capped. Like, I think he is who he is at this point. We've seen enough of him in college, and he has been a productive player, but he's been about the same productive player. We haven't seen leaps in any real categories. We haven't seen any real drawbacks in any real categories either. He's just been a steady contributor, doing the same kind of things for 3 or 4 years now, both at Auburn and Ole Miss. I think that is who he is. I don't know, not that there's not room for growth there, but we haven't seen it. And so if you haven't seen it in college, I have a hard time believing that it's something going to come in the NBA. I think he's a solid player. I think there's a chance he catches on somewhere. He's got, I think, that the skill set too. But I said capped because I don't know how much higher that ceiling is. Is he more likely to hit his ceiling in the NBA or hit his floor?
Floor, yeah, like you said, hasn't really changed much throughout the years. Up and down career. It's just kind of, again, based on the situation, maybe it works out for him, but I would bet against it.
I said floor too. Now he might be at his ceiling, so then it would be ceiling. But I think from a skill set standpoint, he is going to need to land in a good situation to really get a legitimate crack at being a long-term NBA player. Can do it. I want to stress that. Can do it, but I think situation is going to matter a lot for him. So I'm going to say floor rather than ceiling. Who would give him that situation? Who would be the best team fit for Allen Flanigan?
I would say the Rockets. They strike me as the sort of team that's still young. You still have this core that maybe they're like on the, I would say, the verge of exiting a rebuild with all these young pieces, but maybe he can like tag along as one of those rotational guys that you're buying into going forward. And they seem to like those. I mean, everybody likes 6'6" athletic wings in the NBA, but yeah, and I think there'd be some opportunity for him there to maybe crack the rotation.
I like that a lot. They were one of the two options I had down. The other one I had was the Kings. Just as fast as De'Aaron Fox plays, I think Flanigan's going to need to play like as up tempo as possible. And I don't know if just from seeing him in Bruce Pearl's offense so much at Auburn that I want to see him run. But I think that's when he's at his best to get out in transition. So I had the Kings, but the Rockets I had as well. I think that makes a ton of sense. His best year in the NBA, his peak year, statistically, what does that look like?
I can't really see it being more than 3 points, maybe a board, maybe an assist.
Yeah, I had somewhere between 1.5 and 2. Like he's, I think if he gets his shot in the league, it's going to be with very minimal playing time. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to produce when you're not playing much. So in 5 years, where is he?
Overseas.
I think so too. I think he will maybe be coaching in his 6th or 7th year. His
GA back at Ole Miss with his dad and Chris Beard.
Somewhere. His grandfather was a high school coach who he played for. His dad is a college assistant coach at Ole Miss who he played for. I think that's kind of in the cards for Flanigan.
Yeah. GA was disrespectful. He'll be like a director of player development. That's my bad. That's my bad, Allen. I'm sorry, Flanigan family.
I think he'll give it a fair shot overseas. but I kind of went with the coach thing. I think in his superlative, I said he was most likely to be an AAU coach.
Oh, I like that a lot. I
I
like
think
that
he's
a
most
lot.
likely to be an AAU coach.
I wonder what his AAU team would be called.
I don't know.
We need a workshop to shop that.
What's gonna happen is he's gonna like get picked up by the Suns and become friends with Bradley Beal and then be a coach for Brad Beal Elite
Mm,
or so, like
yeah.
something like that, some connection
Uh-huh.
along those ways.
Yeah, well, my superlative for him was most likely to randomly appear in a dunk contest, sort of as like the Mac McClung, like, hey, we caught up this G leaguer to come like
Yeah, that's
to dunk for you for, and then you don't have to think about him again. Um,
that fits the bill.
yeah, I was kind of surprised. He only had 12 dunks this past year at Ole Miss because he was a pretty prolific dunker throughout his career at
Yeah,
Auburn. So
he
that's why I
had some
wouldn't be
that
surprised.
resonated. He had
Mm-hmm.
some big ones that resonated that got that crowd really going. I guess there's not as much juice at Ole Miss currently, or at least last season as there was. Um, but yeah, so Allen Flanigan, I think, is somebody that we know who he is. We're hopeful for his career works out for him. We'll see what happens on draft night where he ends up potentially as an undrafted free agent. We'll see what happens there.
The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.